There is no doubt that Bruges is the tourist honeypot amongst Belgian cities, but Antwerp, Belgium's second city, has a range of buildings from the best of medieval townscape to buildings by the most important contemporary architects, which are well worth a visit. Lying about 9 miles south of the Dutch border, on the east bank of the river Scheldt, it is the second largest port in Europe, and is famous for its trade and its diamond industry. This has brought the city great wealth, which has been expressed in its buildings. So here is a virtual tour of some of the best of Antwerp's buildings. We'll begin with the medieval city, which is dominated by the Cathedral of Our Lady, one of the great Gothic churches of Northern Europe. It took 170 years to build, from 1352 to 1521, but even then the proposed second spire was never completed. And I think I'm glad about that. 2 spires of 404 feet each would look quite oppressive. The cathedral was damaged by Protestant iconoclasts in the 1560s and by forces of the French Revolution in the 1790s, and is more austere than it was originally as a consequence. Nevertheless, it has a light and airy interior, and has managed to retain 2 magnificent triptychs by Rubens, the Raising of the Cross and the Descent from the Cross. Over the crossing is a curious onion dome lantern, designed to light a ceiling painting of the Assumption of the Virgin by Cornelius Schutt of 1647. Around the cathedral are 2 large public squares, the Grote Markt to the west and the Groenplatz to the south. The Grote Markt is one of the great spaces of any Belgian city, built on the site of a medieval marketplace. It was redeveloped as an L-shaped space in the 16th century. It is dominated by the Stadhuis, or town hall, erected between 1561 and 1565, which incorporates both Flemish and Italian influences. This faces the cathedral, which rises up behind the buildings on the opposite side of the square. The square is surrounded by 16th century buildings, many of which were guild halls. The finest group are on the northern side. The Groenplatz, or Green Square, was once the site of the cathedral cemetery, but was turned into a public square by the French in 1803, the Place de l'Égalité. 2 years later it became Bonaparte Square, a name it retained until 1815. The statue in the centre is of Rubens, arguably the city's most famous son. Other notable buildings include St. Jacob's Kirk, or St. James's Church. The present structure was begun in 1491 and was planned to have a tower higher than that of the cathedral. A lack of money prevented this happening. The construction was not completed until 1656, when Baroque architecture was in vogue, but the exterior was completed in Brabantine Gothic nonetheless. It is also notable as the burial place of Rubens. The Vleeshouse, or Butcher's Hall, is a former guild hall, which was the city's meat market. The present structure is the 3rd building on the site. It was built between 1501 and 1504 and housed 62 butchers, plus meeting rooms and storage. It eventually ceased to be a meat market in 1841 and has had many different uses since then. It is now a museum of music and dance. Antwerp was formerly a fortified city, but almost nothing remains of its walls. Standing by the river, the Steen, literally the stone, is a 19th century replica of one of its fortifications. Going away from the river, we leave the medieval city behind and come to the commercial centre. One of the most notable buildings here is the railway station, regarded as the finest railway building in Belgium and one of the finest in the world. It was designed by Louis de la Sensory, the city architect of Bruges, and built between 1895 and 1905, originally as a terminus. It is a stone-clad building in an eclectic mix of styles, which might be termed neo-Renaissance, but with Art Nouveau twists. It is capped by a mighty dome. The train shed to the south was badly damaged during the war and is still distorted as a consequence. The station was given a complete makeover, completed in 2009, which created underground tunnels and lower level platforms, which took trains heading north under the station, whereas formerly they had to reverse out. The station is located in the heart of the Diamond District. To the south of the city centre is a remarkable area known as Kögels Osselei, in the Zurenburg neighbourhood. It is full of Art Nouveau houses of all shapes and sizes. Most of the houses were completed between 1894 and 1908, and it seems as though each architect tried to outdo the competition. The grandest houses are on Kögels Osselei itself, which runs straight through the centre of the neighbourhood in a north-south direction. Behind these houses are streets of smaller houses, one notable landmark being the Four Seasons, mosaic panels on the buildings at a street intersection. Let's take some time to look at the variety of designs. Back in the city centre is Europe's first skyscraper, the Boerentoren or Farmer's Tower. At 287 feet high, it is the second tallest building in the city after the cathedral. It was built between 1929 and 1932 in the Art Deco style and designed by Jan van Hernacker. Built between 2006 and 2011 is the striking Museum aan de Stroom, or Museum by the River. It is Antwerp's largest museum, concentrating on the city and its links with the outside world. Designed by Neuterlinck's Redake architects, it is built of Indian red sandstone with curved glass windows and stands in a prominent position beside one of the inner docks to the north of the city centre. Some of the world's best-known contemporary architects have made their mark on Antwerp. The Palace of Justice, built on the site of Antwerp South Railway Station, was designed by Richard Rogers and completed in 2006. It consists of 6 wings of courts and offices extending out from a public reception area. The roofs are designed to represent the sails of ships past and present on the nearby River Scheldt. In the port area is the Port House, designed by Zaha Hadid and built between 2009 and 2016. It comprises a diamond-shaped structure on top of a protected building housing a fire station and a replica of a former Hanseatic house. The facade is constructed of glass, faceted to control the amount of sunlight entering the building. The structure has been likened to the prow of a ship facing the river and has echoes of the city's famous diamond industry. The building is highly energy efficient. That's the end of our tour, but it shows us that Antwerp continues to embrace architecture of a high quality into the 21st century, in keeping with traditions going back to medieval times.